Literature-Based Thematic Unit by Rebecca Smith. Kindergarten Science Unit. Lesson 1 is called Rain and the Water Cycle. Lesson 2 is called Water. It's important for life on Earth. Grade level, kindergarten. Subject, science. The North Carolina Essential Standard addressed in both lessons is under the strand called Earth Systems, Structures, and Processes. K.E.1 says, understand change and observable patterns of weather that occur from day to day and throughout the year. Lesson 1's clarifying objectives are KE 1.1, infer that change is something that happens to many things in the environment based on observations made using one or more of their senses. KE 1.2 says, summarize daily weather conditions, noting changes that occur from day to day and throughout the year. Clarifying objective KE 1.3. Compare weather patterns that occur from season to season. Lesson 2. Water. It's important for life on Earth. The clarifying objective in this lesson is found under KE 1.1. Infer that change is something that happens to many things in the environment based on observations made using one or more of their senses. The Common Core State Standards for Lesson 1 can be found under the subject English Language Arts and Literacy in History, Social Studies, Science, and Technical subjects. The grade level is kindergarten. The content area is literature. The strand is reading. Under this strand, we have the domains of key ideas and details, craft and structure, and range of reading and level of text complexity. The content areas, informational text. Under the strand reading, we have the domains integration of knowledge and ideas, the strand speaking and listening. Under the domain comprehension and collaboration. Lesson 1 is continued under the strand language, the domain vocabulary acquisition and use. These are the Common Core State Standards for Lesson Number 2, the content area of literature, the strand of reading, the domains of key ideas and details, craft and structure, and range of reading and level of text complexity. The content area of informational text, the strand of reading, and the domains of key ideas and details, and integration of knowledge and ideas. Common Core State Standards for Lesson 2, Content Areas continued. The content areas of foundational skills, the strand reading, domain phonics and word recognition, the domain fluency, the strand writing. Under writing, we have the domains of text types and purposes, and research to build and present knowledge. We also have the strands speaking and listening and language. Under these strands, you will find the domains of comprehension and collaboration, presentation of knowledge and ideas, and vocabulary acquisition and use. Topic 1. Weather, rain, and the water cycle. Lesson 1. Rain and the water cycle. The essential questions in Lesson 1 are: what is rain? Where does rain come from? Why does it rain? Where does it rain most? Least. The learning objectives, or I can statements, are found below. Students will be able to identify types of precipitation, identify weather features related to rain, including precipitation, condensation, evaporation, temperature, and cloud cover, and finally discuss weather related to the climate. The assessments during Lesson 1 are mostly informal and will include participation in class discussions, teacher check-ins with student groups, participation in the class experiment called Making Rain, completing a drawing painting of the water cycle, group presentations toward the end of class. A brief summative assessment will be given at the very end of class and can be found on Kahoot. It will be based on material taken from the lesson. The informational books that I have integrated in Lesson 1 are as follows: Rain by Marion Dane Bauer. Splish Splash, a book about rain by Josepha Sherman. Who Likes Rain by Wong Herbert Yi. Lesson Introduction. The teacher will open with a general discussion of different forms of water as it relates to weather, then direct the students' focus toward rain. The teacher will also show a video about the cycle of rain during this introduction. After this video, the teacher will discuss why it rains, where rain comes from, and how the climate relates to rainfall, building on material from the presentation. Guided practice. The teacher will guide students on a simple experiment making rain. Small student groups of 2 to 3 will place sand and ice in a covered box. Place the box in the sunlight, then observe as evaporation, condensation, and precipitation occur. These models serve as a miniature water cycle and demonstrations of the 3 phases of matter that water is found in: solid, liquid, and gas. Secondly, the teacher will have multiple copies of 3 informational texts previously mentioned. Student groups will research and document findings on their graphic organizers. Students will use the information collected to present what they learned to the rest of the class. The teacher will also use these graphic organizers as a means of collecting and analyzing the evidences of learning to modify the lesson for optional day 2 if needed. Independent practice. Students will apply what they have learned about rain and the water cycle by drawing or painting a picture of the water cycle. The teacher will also use this as a means of informal assessment of student learning outcomes. Second, at the end of class, students will take a 5-question summative assessment in Kahoot. Third, the Think, Pair, Share strategy. With the information student groups gather from their research of the provided informational books and their online findings, Students will give a short group presentation of what they learned. The following list is a differentiated instruction found in Lesson 1. Please be aware, this list is not all-inclusive. Flexibility is given due to the diverse needs of the students. For EC students, the following will be followed. When any video is used, closed captioning will be chosen for students who are hard of hearing. And during the hands-on water cycle activity, students with autism will be allowed to go elsewhere in the classroom and choose a quiet activity, such as a book on the water cycle, to accommodate their sensory limitations. Provisions made for ELL students include the teacher providing an alternative oral assessment to accommodate students who are having trouble learning written English. Secondly, during the hands-on water cycle activity, extra focus will be given to ELL learners on the lesson's content material, as they learn better through experience than vocabulary. The teacher will provide a KWL worksheet template on rain and the water cycle that allows students to better understand lesson material. The teacher may even work one-on-one with the student or in a small group, providing more detailed focus on key concepts. The provisions made for AIG students include giving them an opportunity to be leaders of their peer groups during guided and independent practice and presentation. Instead of having students draw their water cycle on paper, let them present their knowledge to the class via appropriate props in the classroom. Thirdly, provide an optional take-home assignment that allows students to dig deeper into the lesson unit. Lesson 1, Closure. Students will post or display their artwork on the bulletin board. The teacher will reiterate lesson highlights and answer any questions students may still have. Directly after, the post-assessment will be administered online. The time allotted for Lesson 1 is 2 class periods, 55 minutes per class. My second topic involves water, the effects, availability, and safe use. This topic is incorporated in Lesson 2, water. It's important to life on Earth. The essential questions in Lesson 2 are, where can you find water? What role does water play? Who needs water? How does water become polluted? And how can we save water? The following learning objectives or I can statements are found below. Students will understand where water is found, identify what role water plays and who or what needs it, and understand the effects of water pollution and how to conserve or save water. Assessments in Lesson 2 will include participation in class discussion and turn and talk with a partner, teacher check-ins, KWL worksheets based upon material covered in the informational books and YouTube videos, hands-on activity during independent and guided practice. The students will draw or paint ways that they use water to put into a class picture book. The field experiment during guided practice, teacher will provide seeds. The teacher will accompany students outdoors. Students will go outside to the class garden plot, plant and water their seeds and watch them grow over a 2 to 3 week period. In a different control group, students will water their seeds with salt water to understand the effects salt water has on plants. Exit tickets. Students will answer 3 questions related to the lesson content. The teacher will use all of these informal assessment methods as a means of gauging student knowledge of lesson concepts. If needed, the lesson will be modified. The 3 books I've chosen for Lesson 2 are A Cool Drink of Water by Barbara Curley, Water, Emergent Reader Science by Susan Canizares, and National Geographic Readers, Water by Melissa Stewart. The lesson intro. Hit the students on the lesson by asking, did you know that if we didn't have water, life on Earth would end? During the lesson, address the essential questions, and students will say the following I can statements at the beginning of the lesson for clarification and at the end of the lesson to see that they have met the learning targets. The guided practice will involve a field experiment in which the teacher will provide seed packets. He or she will accompany students outdoors. The students will go outside to the class garden plot, plant and water their seeds, and watch them grow over a 2-week period. In a different control group, students will water the seeds with salt water to understand the effect salt water has on plants. At the end of this activity, the teacher will check for student understanding. The experiment should serve to illustrate how important clean water is and to save the 1% of fresh water that is left on planet Earth. Independent practice will involve 3 things. Student groups will work on their KWL worksheets utilizing the book resources and internet. This worksheet is solely based on students' prior knowledge, questions they want to know, and unique material they have learned. Students will draw or paint the ways they daily use water. Students will put their finished artwork into a class picture book. Students will give their new book a title and display it in the class library. This activity will serve to showcase students' understanding of what role water plays and how we use it. At the end of class, students will complete and turn in their exit tickets to the teacher. These exit tickets will have 3 questions pertaining to lesson content and the learning targets. The differentiated instruction provided in Lesson 2 is very similar to Lesson 1, and please be aware that this list is not all-inclusive. Flexibility is given due to the diverse needs of the students. The closure, Lesson 2. The YouTube video found under Review and Recap. This educational video provides an overview of each of the learning targets in the lesson. Please be sure to allow time for the length of the video. Number 2, the teacher will answer any remaining questions and bring closure to the lesson. 3, the students will repeat their I can statements to make sure they have met the standards for the lesson. And 4, the students will be given exit tickets, which when filled out completely, will be their cue to leave. The time allotment for Lesson 2 is 2 class periods, 55 minutes per class. Thank you for watching the presentation on my kindergarten science unit.